So over the weekend, over 400,000 protesters marched through Midtown Manhattan to raise awareness about climate change and the need to regulate carbon emissions. This is in advance of, throughout this week, the beginning of a major meeting that's going to start off a year-long process where another international climate change treaty could be the result of these negotiations. Some are saying it was over 300,000, some over 400,000, but regardless, it is an absolutely massive set of protests in conjunction with solidarity events in 166 other countries. So this is gigantic, perhaps the biggest demonstration or protest in America since the protests against the war in Iraq back in 2003.
And Barack Obama going to speak before the UN General Assembly on climate change on Tuesday.
Yeah. And so huge, I mean, more importantly, both Al Gore and Leonardo DiCaprio were there, and then 400,000 other people. So we had some star power as well. Maybe people will pay attention to climate change.
Leo was there?
Leo was there. I think that's why most of the people came. They just wanted to get a selfie with him or something like that. But anyway, as I said, it's going to begin this long series of negotiations, and the protesters want to make sure that people are paying attention to this and hopefully putting pressure on the government officials that are going to be a part of the negotiations.
Fox News not only denies that climate change is happening, they're actually denying that the march is happening.
Exactly.
Yeah, there were
no coverage.
There were no people in there were no people out in New York.
400,000. They will give more coverage to an event that says they're going to have 2 million and only like 10.5 people show up. They will cover that for hours while rolling footage of protests from previous years where the snow is falling. They'll give that the coverage, but actually getting 400,000 Americans together to combat what seems to me objectively the largest and most important issue that's going to face us in the next 50 years.
You know, some of those,
not worth the coverage.
Some of those 400,000 people could have used them in Benghazi when when the mission was under attack. That's all I'm saying.
Yeah, 400,000. What percentage of them do you think are secretly ISIS supporters? Probably a high percentage. But anyway, in advance of that meeting that I alluded to, John Kerry is taking a break from saying we're at war with ISIS and then not at war with ISIS and then war with ISIS to say you don't have to take my word or former Vice President Al Gore's word on it. You can wake up pretty much every day and listen to Mother Nature, who is screaming out at us about climate change and how important it is. And look, this is, I think one of the problems that most of the media has, and we've had from time to time too, is it's not the sexiest issue to talk about. I mean, we will cover the sort of natural disasters that are made worse by the effects of climate change, but I think that it's harder for the media to figure out how to put a human face on something that is literally about the climate that is worldwide, that wreaks its havoc over the course of decades or perhaps centuries into the future. It's a little bit harder to make that sexy for people just tuning into the news.
Well, it's also, I mean, first of all, it's a slow process. It's something that will go wrong in the future.
Yeah.
It's not something that is wrong now, despite the influence that it's having. Like if everything stayed the same now, everything would probably be okay. So you're asking people to worry about something in the future, and also something in the future that they won't really tangibly be able to see. Mm-hmm. It's not like it would get coverage if we were to say, look, in 8 years, a giant asteroid is going to hit the Earth and destroy us. You could track it, and you would know, even if you couldn't see it, what the aftermath would look like, because we've seen movies. It's hard for people to understand, to quantify, to get a firm grasp on what this exactly means. I mean, even I can't quite do it. It means things that the poorest people in the world will find it even harder to eat.
Yeah.
As always, and it's disappointing about our nature, but it's understandable. It's not like all people who don't think about this are bad people, but they think, well, that's already tough. It's tough for them. It's hard. You know, it is a very hard thing to easily quantify in the mind.
Yeah, and I almost wish that scientists would be a little bit dishonest and say, okay, that storm was because of climate change. Right. But they're too intellectually honest to do that.
Scientific, right?
No, they have to say that it was probably worse because of the fact that the water that it went over as it picked up speed and strength was warmer. That made it worse. Like all of these sort of contingent statements are completely accurate, but they do make it harder for people to care, I guess.
Yeah, and also keep in mind that there's been a very effective, incredibly well-funded disinformation campaign going on while this goes on. And the disinformation campaign is very easy to understand. Like the scientists who say, well, that hurricane or these series of tornadoes in the Midwest or Southwest were likely caused by climate change. The heat wave that killed X number of people in Chicago, the drought all things that are probably related to climate change, to say nothing of
the drought here in California, yeah.
Right, or to say nothing of the natural disasters around the world. And the conservatives who are interested in misinforming people will say, there were droughts before. We had droughts when there was no climate change, and we had terrible storms that caused catastrophes before. So they're just trying to get you scared about nothing. And that's soothing. Having people in positions of power tell you, hey, it's going to be okay.
Yeah.
This happened before. They're trying to scare you. I'm telling you everything's going to be okay.
Yeah.
You know, it's the strategy, as we've said a million times, that the tobacco companies used. They say, hey, look, they say smoking causes cancer. We say they don't know. We don't know. Everything's fine. And you can take a deep breath and think, oh, what they're telling me is, now I don't have to do anything and I don't have to worry about anything. Yeah. And that is a really powerful message to send to someone. Yeah. It literally works on me. Ben, it's okay. Stay on the couch. You're going to be fine. It works.
Yeah. Yeah, unfortunately, though, when you take that deep breath, in the past you were breathing in tobacco smoke, and now you're breathing in air filled with emissions that are probably going to give you cancer and kill you.
Nobody wants to worry. Nobody wants to hear something that's going to occur probably after you're dead is something that we should worry and that you should concern yourself with.
It's just frustrating because right now the right wing is using the threat of ISIS, and people are getting worked up into an absolute frenzy about that. So when it's a human threat, the fear thing works, but for some reason with the climate, not so much.
Well, it's tangible. People are getting their heads cut off, and by the way, as you know, not just the right wing.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, to be fair. So, like we said, a little bit hard to put a human face on this thing, but let's briefly, before we move on, let's put a human face on the march by showing you some of the most clever, witty, and funny signs and forms of protest at the march. That's adorable. It reminds me of the kitten with the cantaloupe shell on its head. Very cute.
Yep, I like it.
It's getting hot in here, so take off all your coals.
Oh, come on. Winter.
Who can't love that?
Winter. You know, I don't like signs, but that's a sign. That's a good sign.
Yeah, by the way, really fast, come back. I did a story on my own channel over the weekend about, they did, I think it was like a 50-year period, and they talked about the number of deaths caused by different forms of power generation based on number of kilowatt hours produced. And coal is 1,889 times more deadly than nuclear power. And yet, coal, totally fine. Let's roll ahead with coal. Let's go back to the pictures.
Can we go back real quick to the woman who says it's hot in here? Because she's also cute, which helps enormously.
Yes.
I mean, that's unimportant.
It doesn't hurt.
There's a powerful message. Doesn't matter how you look, but come on. Okay.
Adorable. Then we've got the Guardians of the Galaxy tie in there. We are Groot.
Nice.
It's got a plant. That's good. That's awesome. Turning the world into an ice cream cone.
Nice. Good. Like it.
That's actually really clever. I hate the expression YOLO, but that I can actually get behind.
I can never, I swear to God, I've asked 9 times what YOLO is. It goes in and out of my head.
You only live once.
That's right. Okay,
yeah, and in this case, the Earth only lives once, which is not technically true, but for our purposes, it's true.
Good YOLO one. I'll ask you again.
Dude, where's my rainforest? That man is apparently only wearing leather shorts and a leather visor, but give a shit, that would be nice. Yeah, so you get the idea. I mean, they're basically, let's not wait for Will Smith to save us, okay? That's awesome. I watched that recently. Yeah, like people need to care about this.
Yo mama's so hot, she's about to experience
desertification and rising sea levels.
Desertification and rising sea levels.
That's pretty good.
That's funny. That's funny. Good stuff.
Yeah, so 400,000 people is amazing. This is reassuring to me because I've seen the polls that show that over the past couple of years, people rate it as a less important issue to deal with than they did like 10 years ago in the wake of an inconvenient truth and stuff like that. So seeing this many people, and not to mention the solidarity around the globe, is certainly, that's reassuring to me. And I hope that coming out of this meeting, we actually have a treaty that does something to cap carbon emissions.